This episode is brought to you by the Boneyard Huskies Club. The Boneyard Huskies Club empowers athletes while providing UConn fans with access to exclusive community, utility, and rewards. The Boneyard Huskies Club is excited to announce the next collection of student athlete collectibles, which grant membership privileges, will feature UConn football players and drop on November 1st at 9 a.m. Eastern. For more information, go to boneyardhuskiesclub.com. That's Boneyard Huskies with a Z, club.com. Okay, we're coming off a bye week, getting ready for the big game against Boston College. So, as always, Jackson back on the podcast. Welcome back.
Appreciate it. Another week.
Yeah. So how are you feeling after this bye week? You refreshed, ready to go against BC on Saturday?
Yeah, definitely a good break, both physically and mentally to get the body right. But I definitely feel rested and ready to go and excited for this week.
Yeah, I know the fans are too. We'll get into this game against BC, but I got to start first with this big burning question that came out of the bye week. You running for governor? We saw you in the chair at the Capitol. How was it over there in that experience?
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. I had never done anything like that, but Coach Moore kind of put it together. It's something he did at UCLA, so he just kind of brought it here, and PC was able to get us like actually at the Capitol for the dinner, and it was really cool. It's a really cool building to be at, and it was definitely a really cool experience and a learning experience for sure.
Yeah, you look pretty comfortable in that chair.
Yeah, a little bit.
So look into this game against BC. How things been picking things up this week during this week leading into the BC game, having the bye week last week. How have things been getting ready for them this coming Saturday?
I mean, things have been really smooth. I don't think there's like any little like hangover from the bye week, I would say. Everyone's really excited and ready to go and ready to really lock into these next four because they're obviously huge games for us and for what we want to do this season. So we're just ready for BC and we kind of started the game plan a little bit last week, but it wasn't really specific. But this week we kind of really got into the specifics and honed in on what we wanted to do.
What stood out to you so far about this BC team from the work you guys have done as you're looking at them on film?
I mean, they're an ACC team, so they're gonna be big and physical and that type of thing, much like Syracuse was. But like they're, I would say like the receiver, he's obviously like a nationally
Yeah.
well-known receiver. So he's a really talented guy, and they give him the ball a lot. I would say probably three times more than the next person with targets and handoffs and that type of stuff. So they're definitely trying to get him the ball. So that's just some guy that you really got to be keyed in on every play.
You mentioned how they're an ACC team like Syracuse was, and might be playing a bit of some similarities between the two teams. How do you think this team in UConn has grown since that game against Syracuse to where you are now going into a game against another ACC opponent in BC here?
Yeah, I think this is a completely different team. I think just overall our confidence in general is a lot higher, and Coach Moore has really given us that confidence throughout the season and really made us confident that we're going to win these games and we can compete in these games. So I think our confidence is at a all-time high, but also just our football knowledge and overall understanding the game. I would say from a defense perspective is at its highest. Just watching the guys and seeing them grow and learn throughout the season from things that we messed up on, things that we did well on. I think we really built on each game and getting better, and I think this should be our best performance yet.
Going into this BC game, I know it used to be an old Big East rivalry back when both teams were in the Big East for football. Do you get a feeling that this any sort of like heightened awareness to this game in terms of it being a bit of a rivalry?
I mean, a little bit, I think, just because it's two Northeast teams, and obviously you want to be the best team in your area before you become one of the best teams like across the country. So, there were two Northeast teams, so obviously you're fighting for that region, and they're kind of close, I would say.
Yeah.
And just for me, I was recruited kind of by both. I never got the offer from BC, so I kind of hold that as a little chip on my shoulder for sure.
Yeah, definitely gotta remind them of what they missed out on there. Let them know what they missed out on. As you think about this game in the season to this point and looking forward, how big are these next four games here that you've got coming up? I know you don't want to look too far ahead outside of BC, but this is a key stretch if this team has talked about the chances of maybe getting to a bowl game or just improvement on where this team has been in the past. How big is this next final stretch of games for you guys?
Yeah, I think this is like a huge stretch for us, and for what we want to do. Obviously, our goal at the beginning of the season is to make a bowl game, and it's well within reach, and we know that. But we just got to take it one game at a time, starting with this game this Saturday. But we understand how big these 4 games can be, not only for us but for the future of the program, really. So we're excited, and we're up for the challenge, and we're ready for this Saturday.
How does it feel to be a part of this program while it's back up on the rise now? I mean, you're seeing if you look at, the websites and the people who rank college football teams, the teams, gradually climbed up in the rankings this year. You're seeing it now in the win column. How do you feel, being a part of this team this year and seeing it grow and develop to hopefully being, the first of many building blocks for this UConn team to just continue to grow?
I think it definitely feels good. Obviously, being here when it was pretty much at its lowest and
Yeah.
seeing it at its lowest, it definitely feels good to feel a little bit of confidence and feel a little bit of hope around the program from the outside. But on the inside, it feels good. It feels like it's never felt better here, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm happy that I'm here to be able to witness it and be a part of it because it's definitely going to be a huge this year. I would say it's going to be like a change for the UConn football program forever. So I think it's definitely a big year.
Yeah, I know there's been some talk this week about getting some guys back from injury. Talk about the boost that you might get in getting some of these guys back, even just having them a little bit more active in practice and some of the benefits there.
Yeah, I think it's huge. Obviously, some of the guys that have been out are like, some of our leaders, some of our better players, guys that contribute a lot. So to have them back just out there on the field and their energy on the field is huge for the team and their confidence. And then just obviously going out on the field from an offensive perspective, getting some guys back on that side of the ball opens things up a little bit more, makes the defense have to focus in on a few other players rather than just a couple. So it's definitely exciting to have them back, and I'm happy for them because they've been fighting hard to get back from these injuries. I know we've been a little plagued with injuries this year, but it's good to see the guys back.
Yeah, well, what's your message to the fan base this coming into this weekend? I know this is probably one of the bigger home games that you guys have had in a while, and I know we saw the rent was pretty packed for that Syracuse game, hoping to get it even more packed for this one against
Yeah, for
BC.
sure.
What's your message to the fans?
I mean, I would just say just show up and be loud. I know no matter how many people are there, it's usually pretty loud, but we definitely need its loudest this weekend and a good performance when we're on defense to, get some false starts, that type of thing, but really get it rocking. And I want to see it definitely more packed than Syracuse. Even though Syracuse was a good showing for what it's been, but I want to see it more packed for sure.
It's going to be like 60 degrees and sunny, so
Yeah,
you don't
perfect
have an
day.
excuse for not coming out to a football game in that type of weather, right? It's like late
Yeah,
October, you're getting 60 degrees, you got to be there.
yeah, it's husky weather.
Yeah. I want to ask as we're heading into Halloween weekend here too. I know I heard College Game Day is going to be doing a little bit of segment on Coach Moore and his haunted house that he lives in up there on campus. Has he talked to you much about the haunted house? Have you been in the haunted house?
I mean, we went there at the beginning of August before we started camp just to have a barbecue and stuff, but we didn't go inside. But I talked to him about it a few days ago, and he just said that whoever lived there before had messaged him about it being haunted and that type of thing. And he thinks it's kind of funny. So obviously, it's pretty cool that College Game Day is actually coming here and doing that whole thing. He was pretty excited about it.
Yeah, no, it's like as soon as I saw those out there, I'm like, hey, you'll take it, get some extra publicity around the ghosts, whatever it takes,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah.
I want to talk too. I know, if you're listening to the podcast, we got the Boneyard Huskies Club who sponsors
Mhm.
these episodes, and I know we've got the big drop coming next week too. How excited are you to be a part of this? The first release from the football team here.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's definitely been like a long time coming. I mean, we started talking back a little before the season started, and we got the guys together, and a few of us guys, me, Dalmont, Noe, now Devontae just got added to it. Nate and Taekwon, we all got with Boneyard Huskies, and now we got this cool NFT and collectibles coming out for the fans that they can collect and show off. And I'm really excited. It was definitely a good partnership, and they've been great and really helpful. And I'm just excited for November 1st. It's gonna be a good drop, and we're gonna have a thing on Twitter and stuff for the
Yeah,
drop and all sorts of stuff.
yes. You like how your avatar came out there?
Yeah, I like it. It looks cool. I like the shirt and stuff. So I'm excited. I need people to get it though.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. If you had to pick someone else on the team that's part of this release next week, whose avatar are you taking?
um, I think Dalmont's looks cool with the dreads and the
Yeah,
tattoos and that type of stuff. I think that one's pretty cool.
yeah, very nice. As always, we'll wrap another win for the Giants. I mean,
Yeah.
how are you feeling about this team? It seems like everyone was down on them heading into last week. I know they were an underdog against the Jags. It always seemed a little bit off to me, but they went in there and took care of business.
Yeah, I mean, every week they win and then someone is still questioning whether they're good or not. So I'm not really talking about it much anymore because I feel like we've proved ourselves and we're just gonna keep proving ourselves.
Yeah,
So we just got to keep taking it game by game, winning, and I mean, I'm excited for our matchup with the Eagles in a few weeks. I think that'll be a
yeah.
good one.
This is rare for people in Connecticut to have the Giants and the Jets playing better
And
than the
the Jets,
Patriots.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you're not
yeah,
used to that
it's
up here.
crazy. Yeah, I'm sure New York is really excited.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, Jackson, as always, appreciate you coming on. Everyone, be at the game on Saturday against BC. We want this place loud, and then
Yeah, for
com-
sure. And
coming
get
off coming off the big game with
November 1st. Get
yeah,
ready.
yeah. Go be there for the NFT drop. We'll be on Twitter Spaces. We'll be having some fun with that coming up on November 1st. So be sure to tune into that. And
Yes, sir.
yeah, as always, good luck, and we'll talk next week.
Appreciate it. Pack the rent.
Yeah, let's get it done. All right, we've got a big UConn football game this week. We've got UConn-BC, Mike Gualtieri, lightscamerasports.com. And to be honest, most of you have probably interacted with him on Twitter. I know there's always a lot of UConn-BC, ACC, all that fun stuff talk. So Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Jared, thank you so much. A lot of fun. You're doing a great job with the Scoreboard, Connecticut Scoreboard podcast. I'm honored to follow Coach Hurley. I know you had him on recently. So
yeah,
I know in terms of importance, I'm right up 1 and 2 with him.
Of course, Mike. Always excited to talk to you. And this is a fun football game we've got coming up this weekend between UConn-BC. I know it's been a little bit since these two teams have played, but to start here, give me your overall impressions of BC this season when it's come to the performance that this football team has done. I know it seems like a little bit of a mixed bag, just from taking a look at it from the outside, but from someone who's watching this program day in and day out, take us through your thoughts on them, just holistically as a team.
Yeah, basically the one word describes disappointment. This is year 3 with Coach Jeff Hafley, former Ohio State defensive coordinator. They were rolling with him. Everyone kind of thought maybe 1-2 years, give him a pass. Year 3, he really gets going. And we have a senior QB, Phil Jakovic. There was borderline talk, nowhere near that now, but Heisman talk in August about having a breakout year because he had a really good junior year. But since then, Phil has only had 11 TDs, I believe, and 6 picks. So it's been all right. But this should have been the year BC fans were, and we were talking in August about 9, maybe 10 wins. So at 2-5, 1-4 in conference play now, Jared, those goals are out the window, really.
When you look at the record in the games they have won, they've beaten Maine and they've beaten Louisville. And then they've lost to Rutgers, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Clemson, and Wake. So some mixed levels of competition there. But what have they done well in these games, in the 2 games that they have won? And in the losses, what have they struggled with that's ultimately led to their demise in those games?
So the honest answer is more negative than positive. But positive, I will say, no question about it. UConn fans should look out for this name. Senior wide receiver Zay Flowers. Having a huge year, leads the ACC in receptions. 52 receptions, 691 yards total on the year. He could have gone to NFL draft. He had a lot of transfer opportunities. He stayed with BC his senior year. He's from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, a really good recruit. And he's just panned out. He's been great junior and senior year. And he's a big-time threat on the offensive side for BC and Phil Jakovic in that regard. Also, the defense, for the most part, has been playing pretty well. A big name, Jaden Woodbay, transfer from Florida State. He's had 42 tackles on the year, Jared. He's a big defensive back. Coach Hafley coached defense on Ohio State. That's kind of his bread and butter. So the defense has been playing pretty well. But one alarming stat, and I was looking at it today, they've allowed averaging 31 points a game allowing as a team.
Yeah.
So that's not going to win many ball games. And then the biggest negative part is the offensive line with BC. It was going to be an issue. They lost a lot of talent. Coach Rabel's son, Tyler Rabel, left. He was a big clog in the offensive line last year. So they knew that was going to be an issue, but it's been a major issue. A lot of injuries. Drew Kendall, son of Pete Kendall, big BC star, he's out for the year. Missed a couple of weeks. A lot of injuries, couple of players out for the year. Kevin Klein, Christian Mahogany. And those were starters on the offensive line. So because of that, Jared, the rushing game has really suffered. Mm-hmm. And because they don't have as many threats, rushing, teams can focus on Zay, and it's kind of like a one-dimensional offense. So
yeah,
I wish I had more positives to say, but 2-5 is 2-5 as a whole season.
No, it's interesting when you bring up the game plan around Zay Flowers, because as part of this preview episode, people right before you come on to give this preview, we'll hear from Jackson Mitchell, who's on the UConn defense. And I was talking to him about film and what they've seen so far. And he called out Zay Flowers right away as the guy that, he says, we've noticed, he gets 3 times as many receptions as the other receivers. So I think when you bring up some of those issues there with, the offensive line not being able to get much of a rushing game, these defenses are going to be able to key in on Zay Flowers. And it seems like even when they do key in on him, he's still able to put up crazy numbers.
Yeah, no question. He's an NFL talent. You will see him play on Sundays. The question is how many years we get that second, third contract, but he will be an NFL talent. And it's good for BC. It's frustrating in a lot of ways for BC fans, because if you really break down the last 10, 15 years, we had great running backs for times like A.J. Dillon, now the Green Bay Packers. But during that time period, we lacked the offensive threats on the wide receiver side. Now we have good wide receivers, but we don't have as many running backs and tight ends. So we've been unable to put it all together and have that breakout season. Really, when you look back, Adazio, now it's a lot of 6 and 6s. We're not anywhere clear that 6 and 6 and 7-5 looks great this year. But it's been frustrating because you've been unable to put it together. And I go back to my senior year at BC. That was Matt Ryan's senior year. That was a 10-win season. That number 2 in the nation. Oh, we're talking 07 now. So, but I've seen those seasons come together, and we also had a great defense as well. But this year we're not near that. That's just the brutal honesty.
Has the fan base started to sour on this program in your head coach? I know it's year 3, and I know a lot of these schools now are kind of quick to pull the trigger when it comes to bringing in a new coach when things seem to kind of hit some road bumps there. What's the general morale and feel from the fan base here?
Yeah, well, so BC in general, they benefit in a way in Boston. The Patriots are the pressure point. Obviously the Red Sox, the Celtics. So 7-5 BC, that coach can survive for a while. The problem is, as you mentioned, Coach Athlete, year 3 now, 2-5. And if he doesn't get closer to 500, there's going to be more and more, angst amongst the fan base. BC does not really, unless it's a drastic major issue, will not fire coaches during the year. That's just not how the school operates. They'll wait to the end of the year, make a decision. They didn't fire Frank Spaziani when they were 2-10 all during that year as well. So they just won't do that. And then, how do I say this? The school, it is what it is. It's an academic-based focused school. Mm-hmm. So athletics, you don't have the rage and the passion. I'm not breaking news to you about an Alabama, an SEC type environment. So you're not going to get that internal rage and angst pressure, to fire a coach. So they're going to have a big amount of patience. So we're not there with Coach Hafley. But it's interesting. Coach Adazio, year 3 and 4, got a lot of heat. And for some reason, Hafley seems to get a little bit more rope in that regard. But, I don't care what you're doing. Year 3, if you're under 500, as you mentioned, you're going to start hearing some stuff, especially as we go in the offseason. But to answer your question, he's safe this year. Yeah. He won't be fired in the offseason. But as we go into next year and this keeps going, it's going to get ugly.
I'm curious from your perspective, again, being around this team a lot, watching them play a lot. How do you feel about this matchup against UConn? Because I think from a UConn fan's perspective, they see a BC team that's kind of down in the dumps a little bit right now, whereas UConn's starting to build up some momentum. They've won, 3 out of 4, I think it was here now, or 2 out of 3. Like they're coming off the bye week rested. They've had 2 weeks now to get ready for BC. Like this is a big time home game, because I know the last time these two teams played, it was up at Fenway, I believe. So, you get a big time home game. What's the feeling, from your perspective heading into this game at UConn?
Yeah, I was talking on my podcast, Minutes with Mute, Scott Mutrid. He does the sideline reporting for the BC broadcast. He said, from BC's perspective, it's a lose-lose situation, right? Series, I got to mention the stat here. Don't get mad at me. The BC UConn football all-time series is 12-0-2 in favor of BC. So
we got two ties there.
You got two ties. I think they were like 1925, something like that. But you got something. But we're also too. That's a little skewed. They didn't play for many years. You know, both these schools have been around for 100 years. They only have 14 matches.
Games. Yeah.
The last time was 2017. So, but it's lose because everyone expects BC to win. If they don't win if they win but they don't win by a lot, it's like and if they lose, it's drastic. So if I'm a UConn fan, like you mentioned your perspective, I'm pumped this week. UConn's having a better than expected year. This is tell me if I'm wrong, maybe, but this is like your Super Bowl. This is like your team to beat up on the ACC school in New England to get that W. And the truth of the matter is, it would mean a lot more. A W to you guys, UConn, would mean a lot more than it would to BC from our internal perspective. For us, it's may get through this week and get going with the ACC schedule. Notre Dame's coming up, I think, next week.
Okay. All right. So maybe a little bit of a look ahead spot here with Notre Dame coming up.
And you guys have a bye. So there's a lot of ingredients at play. I think the line is at 8, right? Or 7.5.
Yeah.
So
been dropping.
There you go. There you go. So, I mean, BC better be ready. They got to take care of business, have a dominate performance. But I wouldn't be surprised if this game's tight.
If I tell you now that UConn wins this game, by 3 points or so, are you surprised if UConn goes out and wins this game?
I can't be. No. I mean, BC's 2-5, 1-4 in conference play. I know they're in the ACC, but not really. We got hammered by Wake Forest last week. Florida State beat us up bad. Played Clemson tough at home for a half. Lost to Rutgers. We should have won that game by 1 point, I think it was, in week 1. That kind of set the tone for the year. And we beat Maine and Louisville. I mean, Maine and Louisville. That's our wins. So, no, I would not be surprised. UConn win, and we're just trying to get W's at this point from a BC perspective in that way. So you're right, and that's a good point because in the beginning of the year, you asked me this game in August. I mean, UConn, that's a W. But credit Jim Moore Jr. I've been impressed. The team's playing hard. I've watched a lot of their games.
Yeah,
they're playing a good football from a UConn perspective too.
Yeah,
where they were last year till now, UConn fans have to be extremely happy.
Yeah, no, I mean, you talk about this being a 7.5, 8 point spread. I mean, if you played this game last year, you're looking at least probably at a minimum in the 20s. So to see the growth there, and I think, as you mentioned, this is a big game for UConn to kind of flex its muscle a little bit and show like UConn's been down in the dumps, like they've been kicked around. People telling them to drop to FCS, and I feel like for the first time in a little bit, they've got a legitimate chance to go out there and compete, and if not have a legitimate chance to beat an ACC team.
Yes, no question about it. I questioned, the game. I was at the UConn Syracuse game. You saw a good ACC team in Syracuse right there. So they're much better than BC in terms of talent right now at this point. It's tough.
Yeah, that was an impressive team there.
Yeah, and so because of that, I bring that up just as a, not to be cocky, but it's a word of caution for UConn fans. Playing the Power 5 teams are a different level than the Ball States, even the Fresno States, the Middle Tennessee States there in that regard.
And I think the players are well aware of that too, because Jackson mentioned, I was talking to him, just the strength and size of these Power 5 athletes compared to some of the other competition they've gone up against. So I think UConn knows they're in for a challenge here, but it's one that I think, as we talked about here the past few minutes, is one that they might have a chance of coming out on top of.
Yeah, I'm happy for state of Connecticut and UConn fans to have a big time atmosphere at Rentschler Field. This won't be big naturally, but for our little neck of the woods in New England, this is like a big deal. And it's good because for too long there's been too many small crowds at Rentschler, not a lot of juice. I remember growing up, those big time games, Pittsburgh, those Big East matchups. South Florida, I remember, was a big one. Baylor coming in. So it's good to see Rentschler. Hopefully it's a good crowd. I haven't seen the attendance projection, but it's good. And for me personally, I want UConn to do well. I want New England football to do well. I want that rivalry to go. I wish UConn was in the ACC, quite honestly.
I think a lot of
I would love to see that
from
a basketball perspective and obviously a football perspective, and kind of create a more northern division, just like they have down south with Duke, North Carolina, Wake Forest, NC State. Why not have a UConn, a New England type, even throw in a Syracuse and Pittsburgh too with that?
Yeah. Got the old Big East back together there. And in terms of crowd, it's going to be 60 and sunny, which you don't get very often in late October here in Connecticut. So Hopefully it helps.
I'll be there. Are you going to be there, Jared?
Oh, of course. I wouldn't miss this one.
Good.
So, this is going to be a fun one here. And I know everyone's looking forward to it. I'll wrap with this one, Mike. And I think you alluded to it a little bit in what you were just talking about. I know some fans, more so from the BC perspective, are probably, would poo-poo the idea a little bit of maybe playing UConn more regularly and making this, a home and home regular series. Is this something you'd be up for on a regular basis?
Me personally, yes, 100%. I live in Connecticut too, so it's an easy game to go to. I would love that. Also, the XL Center, I would love that those games as well with BC. BC's 90 minutes away, so it's not for UConn fans to go up to Boston. I think they would enjoy that. So no question about it. I would love it, and I think the majority of BC fans would as well. If you asked that question to me 10 years ago or 15 years ago, there would still be a lot of negativity on both sides. And that results from that 2003 lawsuit where the state of Connecticut sued BC, Virginia Tech, Miami for leaving the Big East to go to the ACC. So I think UConn fans are upset with BC for leaving, but, UConn would do the same thing if the roles were reversed. So I think, but that we're the players that were leaving that era in terms of the presidents of both schools, the ADs for both schools are gone. Even Jim Calhoun is gone. He was a big, BC. He was not a fan of that whole situation. Let's put it that way. Back in 03, 04, 05, in that way. But I think it's definitely time. I would love to see it. I was disappointed, Jared, when Cuse, it was Cuse and Pittsburgh, Syracuse and Pittsburgh came to the ACC. I would have loved to see UConn in that Pittsburgh slot instead. I think for basketball, really, obviously football drives a bus, but it would have been nice to see Syracuse and UConn and then Pittsburgh come in later instead of Louisville, to be quite honest with you. I really, it's disappointing to me to always look at Louisville in the ACC and not see UConn in there. And then unfortunately, you talk finances, Jared, too. It's tough for me to read the athletic department. UConn, I think of what, 40 million a year per year, a loss deficit, and that's tough. It's independent. You don't get any money. And I think the latest figures is as a member of the ACC, you get 30 million per year. So boom, just as a member of the ACC, UConn's deficit's down to 10 million, just as being a member, and you get better matchups to boot. I think UConn basketball, Dave Benedict has done a good job in getting them in the Big East for basketball. Sort of a Band-Aid there. But don't kid yourself. UConn would join the ACC in a second right now and leave the Big East for basketball, join the ACC and have that cushion for football and then basketball, of course, and then all the other sports as well. And it makes geographic sense now even more so than it did in 03, 04, because you have basically like a northern Big East with Syracuse and Pittsburgh still in the mix. So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but yes, I would love UConn to be in the ACC.
No, I think it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out. We've seen all the craziness of conference realignment the past number of years here, and who knows who might be coming for ACC teams next or how that's all going to work out. So it'll all shake out over the next couple of, a handful of years here. But
when USC and UCLA leave the Pac-12 to go to the Big Ten, it's just, it's craziness.
Exactly.
Throw geographics out of the window. It makes so.
Everyone's looking forward to Rutgers USC baseball. I know that's
3,000-mile trip to play for a 3-game weekend series. So that's all out the window. So you're right. Never say never. But I do know this though. From a UConn perspective, you can't lose 40 million a year. I don't care I know people say it's not really business. It's higher college athletics, higher education, but any enterprise of anything in this, you can't lose 40 million a year. You can't keep going like that forever. The state can't keep bailing out that much. So something's got to give in some way or the other. I don't know how it's going to shake out, but they got to right the ship a little bit with the finances.
And I think righting the ship starts with football here. As we know, football drives the bus when it comes to college sports right now. And no better way to right that ship than by beating BC on Saturday.
There you
go. Get things started.
There you go. But in the bigger picture too, get UConn a good step, and the players can only control on the field. So get that to 500 from a UConn perspective. And then you go from there. And once you get to that 500 level, you start talking bowl games. And then bowl games, you go higher and higher. And you do that for consecutive years, that gets attention. It's tough. As you mentioned, football drives the bus. So when you have a poor football program, it's tough to say, women's basketball, men's basketball. Let's go to a Power 5.
Yeah.
Because it's all about football.
Yeah, no, I mean, with 3 wins here already, we're ready to throw Jim Mora a parade. If he can, he get him to a bowl game, gets the statue.
He's been impressive.
He gets the statue.
Hey, give Dave Benedict credit.
Yeah.
It was a good hire in the offseason. It kind of came out of nowhere. Jim was in Idaho. No one really kind of knew what he was up to. And then he, boom, off the bat, has been really good on social media. I think you have to agree.
Yeah. I mean, the content they're putting out, he's been great at. You know, in the offseason, it was, wow, look at this buzz he's able to create around a program that won 1 game last year. And who knows what it'll be like on the field. But now you're starting to see some actual results on the football field in the win-loss column. So when you pair those 2 things together, it gives you a pretty optimistic feeling for the future of UConn football here.
And then recruiting. That will be big next winter. That will get going. And then once you get that going, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
So,
it is.
You know, it's going to be fun to watch next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mike, appreciate you coming on, giving us the lowdown here on BC, and look forward to this game on Saturday.
Yeah, that was fun. I'll see you down in East Hartford on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll see you there. Thanks, Mike.